Hello. So today I continued with the process and went to a few places out kind of east Auckland, eastish Auckland. I went to 8 shops, and I found this stack amongst them. So actually, I think they're mixed up now. But anyway, I'll go through them and show them and talk about them a little. First one here, John Prine, the album In Spite of Ourselves, which I believe came out in 1999 because I looked it up. When I was in the shop, I quickly Googled it just to kind of see what was said about it. I admit I have never heard John Prine or at least knowingly heard a John Prine song before. The only reason I even know the name John Prine is that he died about, I don't know, in the last 5 years. Could have been last year or 5 years ago. It's kind of all kind of mixes together, doesn't it? But I'd say relatively recently, in the last 5 years or so, he died. And a lot of people kind of eulogized him or kind of praised him after his death and kind of were upset about his death because he was kind of, they liked his work. I thought he was more of a folk artist, I don't know why I thought that, but it actually turns out, at least in this album, he's a country musician. And maybe that's what he is. He's entirely a country musician. I don't know. For some reason, I thought he was a folk musician. But anyway, so I bought this basically purely off the back of so many people being praising him in his death. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, this guy must have been pretty great if so many people, and they were kind of like a range of people. Country music is not something I'm totally into. However, there's bits and pieces I like. I don't know very much about it at all beyond the kind of big, kind of oldish names, which I've talked about before, like Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and the Highwaymen and Hank Williams and Dolly Parton. Kind of, very surface level. So I bought this, and this, from what I can see, this album is kind of an album of like kind of duets. Each song he's singing with someone. So you can see Iris DeMent, Lucinda Williams, I've heard of her. Emmylou Harris, I've heard of her. Fiona Prine, is that maybe his wife or his daughter or his sister? And I listened to this in the car. I listened to kind of the first 10 songs, and it's country music. It's quite nice. I guess hearing the man and the woman's duet in country is quite a, it's like a, what do you call it? It's like a thing, isn't it? Like the male-female duet in country music. I've heard that with a lot of songs in the past. Maybe not, I don't know. I really don't know anything about country music, like I said. But yeah, it's I'd have to listen to it a lot more to kind of give a better account. But I'd say it didn't make me want to turn it off. Because some music that I do buy blind and just think, oh, I've heard of this or this might be good. I put it on and I literally don't want to listen to it. But with this, it was, I quite enjoyed it. Some of the songs more than others. Here he's saying some stuff. I really like duets. There's something about two people singing to each other or about each other and finally with each other that sounds really good to me. The songs here represent a small portion of my favorite country songs. I made a list of my favorite girl singers, and the first 9 I called said yes. I nearly fell over. At times when I first listened to this record, it sounded to me like I was singing along with my favorite singers. So yeah, something different. Never seen anything by John Prine in a shop before. This was $1. and it's in good condition other than having some vivid, what you guys call Sharpie pen written on the front, but that can be taken off fairly easily with some rubbing alcohol. That was the first shop. Now, I'll go try to do it in order of the shops I went to so that I can kind of talk about them in a better way. The second thing, Gotan project. I've just realized, where the frig? I don't know where that water's coming from. It's not here. I've got a feeling it was in my car. Anyway, that will dry out, but that's kind of annoying. Anyway, the Gotan project. Jeez, it's soaked right through. Well, that's my fault. Can't blame anyone for that. The Gotan project is another thing I've heard of before. Musical act, whatever you want to call them. If someone asked what is the Gotan project, I would have guessed they were electronica type music, and it is, but it's also other stuff. Like apparently it's got quite a big tango aspect to it, which I don't really even know what that means. Like tango music, I can kind of think in my mind what that sounds like, but I don't know exactly. This came out in 2001, and you can see there it's put out on XL, which is one of those labels I've talked about before, that if something's put out by XL, I am much more likely to give it a go because they have a pretty decent track record of putting out some good stuff. There's the disc in there. They're French, from my understanding, at least the main part of the project, the band, whatever you want to call it. Although some of these names, Christoph Müller, that sounds German, doesn't it? Eduardo Makarov sounds, a lot of things, it doesn't sound French. Maybe it's not French, maybe I'm wrong. None of those names out there sound particularly French. Tomasi, Crook, Fenogiletto, Cruz, Beetleman, Villalonga. Anyway, that was $1 as well. No idea what that's going to sound like. And it's wet on the corner because I don't know what I did. Something I made. I can't feel any water here, and I didn't spill any water here, so I think it's in the car. Anyway, the drum battle of Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich are kind of two of the most, well, I would say most famous jazz drummers, because A, I don't know enough about jazz to make that claim, and B, from what I understand, they were kind of more, how do you put it? It's like if you ask the average person on the street, who's the best guitarist of all time? Who might they say? I'd say the two most common names you'd probably get would be Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton. And there might be an argument to say that Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton are the best guitarists of all time. It's such a personal thing anyway, isn't it? Saying it the greatest guitarist. Like, how would you judge that? Like technicality or kind of virtuosity or how many great songs you've written or success in record sales. For me, I would never put Clapton even in the conversation as greatest guitarist of anything, because he's always seemed wildly overrated to me. Hendrix, I can see the argument, like very influential and very groundbreaking and kind of pushed music forward in a big way, his playing. But there's a lot of other guitarists I'd put up there. But what I was saying with those two is that kind of the go-to mainstream, almost stereotypical answer. Well, same thing for jazz drummers. People who don't know about jazz might say Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich because they was really flashy, and I think they were both band leaders. Usually the drummer wasn't the band leader. Usually the band leader was often the pianist or the saxophonist. I guess obviously the band leader can be any instrument. But typically, and again, I don't know anything about jazz, so I'm completely wrong. So I wasn't watching this going, what the fuck are you talking about? There's lots of drummers who are band leaders. But I actually remember either reading or watching something about this very subject, about the fame of these two guys, Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich, far outweighed their actual importance to jazz as an art form. And there are much more important jazz drummers who don't have the name. Like the name that I think of, Max Roach, I think he was mentioned. And my list's going to stop there because I can't think of any other ones. The guy who made the video or the article that I read listed a bunch of drummers and said, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. These are far better drummers and more important drummers and were featured on much more, groundbreaking releases and so on and so forth. So Billy Evans is a pianist, I think. Cannonball Adderley, was he a pianist? I'm just thinking of these jazz names that come over. They've probably got nothing to do with drumming. So I'm just going to quickly here Google jazz drummers, and we'll see what they say. Art Blakely, Elvin Jones, Tony Williams. I've heard of him. Max Roach, we talked to him. There's Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, Billy Cobham, Joe Morello, Philly Joe Jones. So they're on the list there when you Google. So, I'm not saying they were bad drummers or anything like that, but maybe they were just they're overrated. Maybe that's the word you want to say, or just kind of overrepresented in the conversation where they needn't necessarily be. Omar Hakim. Let's see who's number one, eh? Let's go down to number one. Peter Erskine, Joe Morello, Jimmy Cobb, Jack something, D. Jonette. Steve Gadd, is he really considered a jazz drummer? Paul Motian, Billy Cobham, Louis Hayes, Shelley Main. Philly Joe Jones, Chico Hamilton, Joe Jones, Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich. They kind of all pair together, don't they? Roy Haynes, Elvin Jones, Kenny Clark, Tony Williams, Max Roach. It is Max Roach, and Art Blakely. Actually, I was watching a Ginger Baker documentary. Was it called Beware Mr. Baker? I think it's on YouTube if you want to see it. It's of his life, and this guy went out to meet him and asked him to make a document, and they had Ginger Baker is kind of famously, or was, he's dead now, but was a bit of a curmudgeon, to say the least. And there's one part where he whacks the documentary maker in the face with his walking stick, breaks his nose. Another one where he's with Chad Smith. I don't know if this is in the documentary or an interview of the documentary. They're sitting there having a chat, and then Ginger Baker's trying to light a cigarette, and so Chad Smith gets up to light it for him. It surprises Ginger Baker, and he tells him to fuck off or something. Anyway, the reason I bring up Ginger Baker is that he talks about Art Blakely and how amazing a drummer he was, and how Ginger Baker really didn't like rock drummers and didn't consider himself a rock drummer. Anyway, all that to say that I got this Gene Krupa Buddy Rich album. I think this is a live recording at JATP. Do you know what JATP is? Picture the scenes: one stage, two drummers, and a frantic crowd of jazz-loving concert attendees at this 1952 Jazz the Philharmonic concert in New York. So yeah, I think it's a live. Just looking who else was mentioned. Okay, anyway, that was $1 as well. The drum battle. So again, you do see a lot of jazz CDs around, but it typically is compilation type stuff. Actual jazz albums are pretty rare, really. So those were all $1, 3 for $1. I can't remember. It's hard for me to remember what was. Anyway, I'll just show them in the stack order. I can't bother going from shop to shop. Remember this? This came out about 2007-ish. I remember I was living in Japan at the time. And if you've been to Japan, you know that they still, 2006, they still have physical music stores are pretty common there, or much more common they are in the rest of the world. And I remember, this was, 2007, so it was a long time ago anyway, but I remember being in the shop and they were playing this in the shop. And I remember I think it was sounded quite interesting. So from my understanding, it's the soundtrack to the musical type show that they did. I'm not exactly sure. Like, like no, musical is maybe not the right word. Like it's like a Las Vegas show. I don't think there's a story behind it. It's a Cirque du Soleil. Okay, so it's a Cirque du Soleil show that uses Beatles music as the thematic kind of vehicle for the show. And this is, they transition into one another. You can see there it says transition from my remembering. So it's almost like they're kind of being remixed. But I don't know how much they've been changed. So yes. So I've always kind of wanted to listen to this through. I mean, it didn't get the greatest reviews. So, this was $2. You can see it was put on the shelf yesterday because today's the 20th and it was put out on the 19th. And Aerosmith Greatest Hits. I got this. I think I've got Big Ones is the name of it. Is that what it's called? The one that was kind of put out in the early 90s and it had, it's like a blue cover. And it's got kind of those 80s hits, like Drew Looks Like a Lady and Love in an Elevator and all that. And then kind of some of the earlier stuff as well from the 70s. I've never been the biggest Aerosmith fan. And what I can kind of appreciate those like the songs they've got on here, like Dude Looks Like a Lady. To be honest, I don't like that song, but Love in an Elevator, Living on the Edge, The Other Side, Janie's Got a Gun. When those songs come on the radio, I can kind of, appreciate those songs. The kind of songs I'm going to listen to over and over again because I've heard them so many times in my life. Then they released, I think it was 9 Lives in about 1997. And I really liked the song on that called Sweet Taste of India or Taste of India. I'm always on the lookout for that album because just for that song specifically. That song Pink was also on there. I don't like that song. But I think also, I might be wrong, that song Falling in Love, this is the main reason I got this album, was for that song there. Falling in Love is Hard on the Knees. For some reason, I must have listened to that song a lot when it came out, because when I listened to it again today in the car, it was like a real, when you listen to a certain song and you haven't heard it for a long, long time, but when you did used to listen to it, you knew it very well. It was that kind of feeling. So that's a good song. I like that song. Yeah. I think the last two are maybe kind of bonus tracks, kind of added tracks to, when they release the greatest hits, they throw in one or two new songs. Yeah, there we go. It says here, featuring 2 hot new tracks. So I'm pretty sure that's those last 2. So I've never heard of them before. Sedona Sunrise, Devil's Got a New Disguise. So when was this released? Can't see a year. No, why do they? I wish they just put a year. Why do they never do that? Not never. Why do they sometimes not do that? I'm going to guess this was about 2004-ish. Look, got the sticker, latest and greatest, win $10,000 cash. They used to give $10,000 away when you were buying a CD. That was when there was money in the record industry. Still no year. Okay, anyway, so that was $2 as well. Bon Iver, or was it Bon Iver? Bon Iver, 22 a million. 22 a million. This was an album from 2016. I already own his album, was it one, Songs for Emma, or whatever that one's called? Probably the one that was his big breakthrough. It's maybe his first album. They said in the review that I quickly read in the shop that this one's more electronic influenced and has also a bit of hip hop influence because he had worked with Kanye before this, and so that kind of rubbed off on him. So I'm interested to see what that sounds like, but I've got nothing else to really say about this because I don't know anything about it. $2. REM Around the Sun. Now this is obviously one of their later albums. Maybe is it the last album? 2004. No, I think they had one after this, didn't they? One more. I don't think I've ever heard any song off this album. Leaving New York. But I bought it because I consider myself to be an REM fan. And you do see a lot of their greatest hits things for sale secondhand. And also Monster, you see that a lot. And Automatic for the People, you see that a lot. But you don't see this. I've never seen this before, and it was only $1. So I thought, well, why not? It's in very good condition as well. Don't have much else to say about it because I like I said, never heard a song off it. This was, admittedly, the period of their career where they were on a pretty big downswing. It seemed that after like a pointless kind of poster almost, and lyrics on the other side. So Monster, and then New Adventures in Hi-Fi, and then what was the one after that? Was it Up? They're kind of getting diminishing returns success-wise, weren't they? And then into the 2000s. By that stage, they were kind of just they'd moved into the category of being kind of a greatest hits type band. That when they would play concerts, people wanted to hear the songs, and that's not bad. I think they formed in the early 80s. They went through most of the 80s kind of as that independent kind of college rock type, very influential to coming alternative scene. And then they kind of blew up massive in the early 90s. They had almost like a decade of kind of being a huge band, and it kind of ebbed away into the 2000s. And then by the end of the 2000s, I think 2009, they broke up. No one can keep going forever, can they? Anyway, now this one, been looking for this for a long time. It's kind of just, it's not like a major album that I super wanted, but I got Pod. I got Pod secondhand for $1 probably 4 or 5 years ago. And so I've been looking for Last Splash all the same, at the same time that whole time. This was $2. Quite shocked to find it just because it was just there. It wasn't, everything's just there, but yeah. You kind of usually, when you find this kind of thing, you find it together with other similar type artists, but this wasn't. This was just kind of in the stacks with a whole bunch of other shit stuff. So yeah, this is an album I've listened to a lot. I remember one of my friends when I was a kid, like literally when I was like 13, they had this on cassette tape. Cannonball obviously was it's probably their most famous song. I think it's the only song that I've seen of theirs that had a video. I'm sure they do have other videos, but that's the one that I remember, where they kind of, if you've seen it, there's like there's different parts to it. They're performing live, and then there's a cannonball rolling through, like down the footpath or down the street. And then there's this other part where they put their face, or Kelly or Kim puts their face in the water and sings or blows a whistle or underwater. So yeah, this is something that I've wanted in my collection. It's very much of this kind of era that I especially like to collect. Of this genre, I especially like to collect. And a band that I like a lot. If you don't know who the Breeders are, that's them there. Kim Deal, formerly of the Pixies, Jim McPherson, Josephine Wiggs, and Kelly Deal, Kim's sister. She went back to the Pixies when they reformed in whenever it was, the 2000s, 2010s. But then she left again. And then they got Paz, don't know how to pronounce her surname, Lechanton. She joined, she was in A Perfect Circle on their first album. And then just recently they fired her. Like properly. For like, I guess, Black Francis or Frank Black is the one who does it. Is this going to get? This might get flagged, on the stupid shit gets flagged on these. I guess it's like an AI thing that kind of goes through your video, and if it has any kind of adult type thing, it gets blocked or restricted. I probably should have thought about that before I showed it, but it's all over. I can't really show it without. This is the Lords of Acid. Voodoo You. Lords of Acid, I've heard of them before, but I don't know anything about them. I thought they were kind of going to be like an acid rock or kind of a stoner rock type band. Apparently they are from Belgium, and they're a kind of electronic industrial act. So not what I imagined. What's on the other side? I'm going to show that. But beyond that, I really don't know much about it. Produit et Orange, Praga Khan, Jade for You, the Lord of Acids. So yeah, interested. I kind of bought this purely off the album art because it looked like that kind of music. Then I looked at like I said, I Googled it and it seemed like something that I might like. And so yes, that was $2 as well. Almost there. The soundtrack to a movie that I really love, Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, so done by Danny Elfman, quite a famous soundtrack. I'm sure you probably heard at least one song from this. What's This is probably the most famous one, I guess, or This Is Halloween, maybe. This Is Halloween, or What's This? Like I said, great movie. Seen it many times. When I was at university, I did a film class. Just kind of, you can do elective papers, just kind of fill in the gaps and you can kind of choose. So I did in the summer school, I did a film class. And one of the films we focused on was this, Nightmare Before Christmas. Can't really remember much about that class now. It's 20 years ago. But we did this. Oh, yep, other films. Being John Malkovich, I think. Some French movie. Jean-Luc Godard or something. Anyway. Last one. In the vein of the R.E.M. album, another more modern album from a band that kind of was huge in the 90s, but is now kind of, I guess, just a greatest hits type live act. Although I know they try to resist that, and that when they play shows, they try to do kind of deep cuts and bits and pieces of things. But they just played in Auckland 2 shows in November last year, so about 2 or 3 months ago. And I looked at the set list for both nights, and I didn't go. I would have, probably, but they were playing a concert show, and I'm not really interested in sitting. Concert show, a stadium show. I'm not really interested in sitting in a stadium, couple of 100 meters away from the stage watching a screen. Doesn't really interest me that much. But their set list was pretty greatest hits heavy, or first 4 albums heavy, which is good, as it should be. They can't be going and playing stuff of binaural and this, and because people don't want to hear that. I'm sure there are the big fans there who do. They do like those deep cuts, but you know, any band understands that you can't just do it like that. So anyway, this album is a self-titled album, Pearl Jam, that came out in 2006, I believe. I looked at it, yes, 2006. I don't think I've ever heard a single song off this album. But again, Pearl Jam are a band that in the 90s, 10 Versus, Vitology, to a lesser extent, No Code and Yield. I love those albums. Versus in particular is like one of the key albums of my youth. It has one of the biggest nostalgia, but not even just nostalgia, but like I love that album. It's not just a nostalgia thing, because I can play that and enjoy those songs now. But some of the stuff that I did hear that they did in the 2000s, I didn't really like. I thought it was just a bit boring. It wasn't like offensively bad, it was just boring. So I don't know what this is going to sound like, but I'm willing to give it a listen through and add to my Pearl Jam collection. You can see this was a sample product, which typically means, because it's got this on here, it was given to a radio station as a promotional copy, either intended to be a prize to give to listeners or to give to DJs, kind of like listen to this new album and talk about it. So you see these things from time to time from radio stations with that sticker. I've got a few that got that sticker on it. But yeah. Let's look at the booklet. They're always kind of focused, well, not focused, but they always kind of make an effort for the artwork, Pearl Jam, or at least they used to. There's the lineup, the same lineup from the beginning, except for Matt Cameron. Obviously, they've had a few drummers in there. They've had 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. He's either the 4th or the 5th drummer. They had Dave Cruson, Dave Abruzzese, Jack Irons. There might be another one in there somewhere between those names, and then Matt Cameron. And they've stuck with him since about 98, I think he joined, after Soundgarden folded. So well over 2 decades he's been in the band now. Anyway, so that was a pretty productive day, wasn't it? And I was talking last week about how I was not in the mood. And to be honest, I wasn't super in the mood today to be shopping around. I probably could have gone to a few other places if I had been more inclined, but I wasn't, and I didn't. But still, yeah, I think there's some pretty good finds there. Some actually really good finds. And if I was more in the mood, I probably would have been more I don't know, what's the word? So I went to, I said 8 shops. Continuing this, yes, I haven't given up on this. Today is day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's either day 5 or 6 or 7, because one of those ones I didn't make a video. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. So I went to the first one was a hospice shop. Then there was an SPCA shop. Both of those had nothing. They were in Ellerslie. Then I went to Panmure and I went to the hospice shop there, and the Salvation Army and the Red Cross. Salvation Army had nothing. Hospice, I got those first 3 for $1. So what was it? Gene Krupa, I'll just put one word so I can remember. Gotan, and what was the other one? The first one. Was it just those 2? Maybe, oh no, John Prine, that's right, John Prine. So that's $3, buckaroos. Red Cross, I got... Did I get the rest of them? I got all the rest of them, didn't I? I think. No, because I got... Oh, yes, this is why I should keep track of what I'm doing so that I don't embarrass myself like this. I got that one, that one, that one, the one I can't show, that one, and then those two are there. So I got REM, Breeders, Lords of Acid, Peel Jam, Aerosmith, and Night Before Christmas. And those are all $2 each, except for REM, which is $1. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, $11. And then the last shop, when I went to Glen Innes, I went to Salvation Army, a hospice, and a SPCA. SPCA and hospice had nothing. GI here, so I remember, and this is Pam Muir. I got the Beatles Love album and what was his name? Bon Iver, which were $2 each, which is 4. So I spent $18 today, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 albums, 10 CDs, I should say. Not bad, eh? Less than $2 a piece on average. So this is going to be wrapping up soon because I've got the rest of this week, which I might... there's not that many places left, to be honest. I've covered most of the areas. I haven't covered all the shops, to be honest, because some of the... I've said this along the way, that I wasn't kind of going to every single shop because I just wasn't feeling it. But I've done west, I've done east, I've done north, definitely done north. North has been thoroughly done. The only I haven't really done central. Central is the kind of hardest part to do because it's quite a big area and it's kind of driving around a lot. And again, it's kind of got to be in the mood to do it. I might do some of that tomorrow because I have to go out south for an appointment. But after that, once that's done, that's pretty much it done. Was my New Year whole kind of journey of going around all the shops for the new year. What I've been planning for months, I had in my mind to do, but kind of got derailed a little bit. Well, I'll talk about this when I kind of wrap it up in the next one, but kind of has been derailed a bit just by my lack of motivation, and then some kind of personal things which I talked about in the last video. But nonetheless, once I go over everything and see, I'll kind of put this up in a nicely written thing once I'm ready to kind of summarize. I have found some pretty good stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching.